It's ad break time. I'm proud to announce that the Beyond Solitaire podcast is sponsored by Central Michigan University's Center for Learning Through Games and Simulations. They just successfully funded their most recent game, Greg Loring Albright's Keep the Faith, which is a light RPG about the growth of a religion. If you missed the campaign, do keep an eye out for a chance to late pledge in the coming weeks. Also, if you'd like to support Beyond Solitaire, please head to patreon.com/Beyond Solitaire to help me keep the lights on. For now, though, enjoy the show. Hey, gamers, it's Liz Davis from Beyond Solitaire, and this week on the pod, I'm here with a very special guest. It's game designer Eric Lang. How you doing today, Eric?
I'm doing well, Liz. How are you?
I'm doing great. I'm super excited to be talking to you. It's my early morning. It's your evening, and I like that. I like that split. I'm a morning person. So for people who don't know who you are, although that is hard to imagine, somebody listening to this podcast, what are some games that you are known for?
What am I known for? I'm going to go in reverse order because I've been working in mass a lot for the last few years. Some people will know me from Life in Reterra, from Hasbro, possibly Wrath of Fire Mountain from Gamewright, Marvel United from Simon on the mass side. On the hobby side, more people probably, I'm Blood Rage guy. Probably knows for Blood Rage, some of my big box games like Bloodborne, Song of Ice and Fire miniature game, tons of Fantasy Flight stuff. I did design a lot of the early living card games and all the early collectible card games, Game of Thrones, Call of Cthulhu, God Almighty, Star Wars, of course, Warhammer Invasion, like lots and lots of license. XCOM, oh my God. It's I should have had a list in front of me, but I like trying to do it off the top of my head.
Yes. So, for those of you who need some further context, Eric is at the point in his design career where it's hard to come up with all of the games off the top of his head. That's awesome. I want to then start. So, you're clearly very prolific. And at the time that I was starting to contact you about getting an interview, you'd recently posted on Blue Sky that you were burnt out and that was part of your life. But then, as I kind of checked in on you again this morning to prepare for this interview, I noticed several little posts about feeling like you're really productive. You've got like a whole bunch of games that are slated for prototyping that might be coming out next couple years. So, how does that cycle actually work for you? And how do you deal with it?
I love the question because this is new, right? So when I say burnout, I don't mean like lowercase b burnout. I mean like capital B diagnosed burnout. And so I was technically, I think this is, I mean, we start with a therapy hour, but like in theory, I think I actually might have been burned out for the last 3 or 4 years. And generally speaking, it's a weird like autistic burnout rather than like necessarily just professional burnout where it wasn't a matter of doing too much. I've always been somebody who loves doing multiple things because I also have ADHD and I love compartmentalizing, doing like doing multiple things is easier for me than doing one thing. So I loved the load was not the thing. It was just I was doing too much of what I was not what I don't naturally love to do, right? A lot of corporate dealings, a lot of working within powerful bureaucracies. I'm just not into that, even though I respect the process, and I have a lot of respect for people who can do that. I can't, and I've been doing that for a long, long time, and that started to really erode my love of gaming as I spend more and more of my time working on systems and processes and various forms of analytics than I was working on games. And as you know, I'm sure especially, and a lot of creatives know, the more you try to distill your work down into an ordinal, the more you kind of suck the life out of like the spontaneous stochastic creativity that you have. And the more you start feeling like a ChatGPT output. And that gets existential and gross. And so I've been doing that. I finally realized that I needed some time off, but not just time off, time off to be busy doing other things. That was a year and a half ago. I still last year I did a I didn't do a lot of game design work. I did just conventions. I did basically a touring year, literally like a touring musician's year. Like I went to 14 conventions because I had released a bunch of games and I wanted to actually just go on tour and just go meet with fans, be there for Hasbro, for Game Right, for Buffalo, to sign games, to meet with fans because that stuff fills my cup. I love that. But I did too much of it and sort of mini burned out again. And I'm now on another sabbatical. And then basically sorry, I'm answering your question the very long way.
No, I
But
like that. Less work for me.
um, um, I'm now at the point where I've forced myself to be bored for like a whole month. And it's been amazing. And so I'm not going to work on anything before, even if I feel inspired, I'm not going to work on it. I'm just going to I'm going to be really busy doing other things. So I've been renovating a house that we had here in Malaysia that we're building up for retirement. So like made a real project out of that. And because I'm a dork and I do everything extra, like I took like an interior design class to figure out how to do that. And work. It's ridiculous. But it was really fun. I got really immersed in it, hyper fixated on it. And so I didn't do anything to do with games, but stayed really, really busy. And then it started coming back, right? You are who you are. And like game design just started falling out of me. And all this stuff that I've been sort of cooking in the background subconsciously was kind of like, all right, enough rest. Like you're getting like waking me up in the middle of the night. You go to your computer, make this prototype, do it. And so I basically did what I was compelled to do and got really excited doing it again. Now, sorry, maybe I misspoke on social media. I don't have like 6 games coming out this year. Anything I'm working on now is not going to come out for like 2 years, if it's published. Some of it is just on spec. I'm just doing it myself.
Oh yeah, I'm not trying to hold you to any particular promises. It's just that you seem to be in a burst of activity.
Absolutely, yes. And this is the first time in about a year.
That's amazing. So the other thing I've noticed is when you say that you have to force yourself to be bored, you don't mean bored. It doesn't sound like, because interior design class and working on renovation doesn't sound boring at all.
Oh, right. I did that last year.
Okay, so what is
And
being bored
so
for you? What do you do during that time?
reducing my life to a really, really small, like basically playtesting retirement. And so I made sure like my day was, if I were to journal my day, like I wake up, I make myself breakfast, I go out for a walk. Here in Malaysia, which is in the tropics, there's a lot of street cats in the neighborhood, which are very well taken care of. It's a culture here. So I really got deep into that culture because I love cats. And so I go out, feed the cats in the morning, go do a speed run around, like feed a whole bunch of cats during the day. I might go to the mall if I'm feeling really ambitious. I might go do an activity. But it was really just like live the old man retired life for a while and just relax, watch a lot of TV, go back, listen to a lot of podcasts, just consume for a while. And spend a ton of time outdoors. And like meditate and work on my diet and like that kind of stuff.
I mean, that sounds great. Maybe boring,
It,
maybe, but great.
it for somebody like me who is achievement addicted, yes, it is boring. But it is boring in the good way.
Man, I'm having flashbacks to my dissertation now that you're talking about, like, not letting yourself work even when you're feeling inspired.
Mhm.
I was really into only writing 2 pages a day during my dissertation phase, no matter how I
Oh
felt.
wow,
So, basically, even if I was really feeling it, I would stop at 2 pages, but also if I was really not feeling it, I would get to 2 pages, and it just kind of evened out as, like, a process.
that's cool
So
though. Did it start becoming like did it regulate for you?
yes, yeah, like, I actually trained myself to get part of it out, and I would research for the next day, and then this is very healthy. I would eat lunch and spend the rest of the day playing Skyrim
Absolutely.
because that
I
was
mean,
what I
God,
emotionally needed.
how much of game design is staring out a window, like looking at a cool view, or for me, it's walking. I practice walking meditation, which is like not a regimented religious one, but like just a like go outside and be like no headphones, no nothing, just be very kinesthetically involved with your environment and do it for hours. And so that's I love doing that, and that I find that to be incredibly inspiring.
Oh, that's really interesting. I actually am big on the creativity nap. I like to sleep on it, and
Oh,
actually
envy you.
I just read a book called Why We Sleep, and I feel very vindicated in this because apparently it does work
Oh,
scientifically.
I'll bet it does. I can't nap during the day, otherwise I can't sleep for like I can't do the Galileo 30-minute nap. Because I'll go into a REM cycle and then I'm screwed.
No. Okay, so I wanna go back to something you said earlier when you're talking about sort of like the triggers for your burnout, and that was working
Mhm.
within a bureaucracy and kind of distilling your games down to like the sort of less artistic aspects of them. You also do a
Oh,
lot of work
sorry.
with Mhm.
Sorry, not true. I was actually pretty pure on the actual work. It was just the amount of time I spent in like doing, because I'm a game designer, and game designer really is a process manager, right? And so it turns out I'm also really good at managing processes. So I did a lot of consulting work for the publishers I work with, helping them
Oh.
on their processes, mainly from the point of view of championing development, right? So like I would go to a lot of meetings, a lot of executive meetings to be the user advocate, right? It's meaningful work and it's good work, but it's just not what like the universe did not order that of me. So like I'm not into that.
Yeah, it's like the
And
teacher who wants to be with kids and then becomes an administrator, like,
right, that's right.
Well, I was gonna ask, so how do you do a lot of work with IPs. So you
Hmm.
mentioned XCOM, you've just got Mass Effect out, Star Wars. Do you find that when you're working on an IP attached game, that it's a different process from making games that where were more free to choose the theme?
Yes. Oh, absolutely. And not only is it different, every single IP is completely different. The and in fact, well, and this is my own damage here, but like I actually I don't have a process for even for IP games. Like I might have like general, like a very vague general, like very obvious process, but like spend a bunch of time re-immersing and um, uh, well, okay, sorry, I guess I do kind of have a process, so I lied. Um, you call me on this and we'll check back on that. I do have a little bit of process, but what I mean is like I don't have a specific set of checkpoints that I run through for every IP. And if I do, if I feel like I'm following a process I did for an earlier IP, I usually just abandon the game or I find myself not interested in the IP. In working on a game for that IP. So like for example, if Mass Effect would have been like, oh, I did XCOM, so I kind of know the steps to do here, I would not have been excited about Mass Effect at all. Instead, we put limitations on Mass Effect that made sure it would not come out anything like XCOM because we were going for a different audience.
Is it about a different audience, or is it you are not creatively satisfied by doing what feels like the same thing twice?
Both, both. I mean, game design is a very democratic art form, and so like I'm like yes, on some level, I love to say stuff like I make games for me, and it's true, I do make games for me. But as part of that process, I make sure to immerse myself in like sometimes I will chase a new audience, but like what I'll do is I'll go like I feel like I really should make a game for 13-year-old boys. I haven't been a 13-year-old boy for a long time. I'm gonna go back and watch all the old stuff I used to watch as a kid. Like maybe like smoke some weed and go watch the Transformers movie and like and just like see relive that a little bit and like really immerse myself. So yes, it's for me, but it's a part of me that identifies with that audience. So I do feel it is very important. Like all we do fan service, right? Like and we bring part of the entertainment to the table. The players have to fill in the rest of the gaps. So the work we do is very important, but it should be as invisible as possible.
Alright, so I feel like you've given me a partial answer here, but I did wanna ask
Okay,
about this, so I'm glad you brought it up on your own. You
hit me
mentioned
for
that
more.
games are the most democratic form
Yes,
of artistic expression.
I get
What
in trouble for
exactly do
that.
you mean by that?
I get in trouble for that so much. So, but I truly, truly believe that. So what I mean by that is, uh, I mean, look, it's basic like passive versus active art, right? Like um, we are not, the stuff that we make is consumed by players, but they are bringing so much of the experience to the table, right? Like Alon Lee from Exploding Kittens encapsulated this very, very succinctly. Where it's like, we don't make games that are entertaining. We make games that make people entertaining. It's a little bit extreme, a little reductionist, but I do fundamentally agree with them. We make these packages. We design a matrix in which players can entertain each other. That is like, so if the players suck, like if my game is played by a bunch of players who don't like each other, who are not fun to play with, like it doesn't matter how good my game is, it's gonna get ruined, right? You can watch a Marvel movie with a bunch of assholes in the theater, pardon the language, and it'll be like, unless they're physically disrupting you, you're still going to get something out of it. You might diminish a little bit, but like players, like I design games for players to give players tools to be as the best versions of themselves, if at all possible, or shall I say, maybe not the best versions, the most entertaining versions that in that context. Uh, I would love to make players the best versions of themselves. That's super pretentious, and I don't have superpowers.
I was just thinking about, in what case is the Loki strategy in Blood Rage the best version of it?
It's full on entertainment. You can you So I believe in violent catharsis too. We can talk about that as well. But I yeah, I do make games that are that I do make a lot of games that are very aggressive, and I do think that that is absolutely healing. I still stand by that.
Okay, we're definitely gonna circle back to that. But I also think it's
Yeah,
very
we
interesting
are.
you talk about games like making people the most entertaining versions of themselves because I'm primarily a solo gamer. I make solo games, I like co-op games. And so it's a very different experience. But I do
Hmm.
often find myself saying, if you don't like your own company, you will not enjoy being a solo gamer. Because even if you're reading a book or watching a movie, there's external input coming in.
Hmm.
So you can kind of like just hop into somebody else's shoes or consciousness for a while.
That's
But when
right.
you're solo gaming, it's really just you. So you have to be
That's
able
right.
to entertain yourself.
That's right. And I'm gonna admit, solo gaming is not my jam. Like I don't think I will ever make a solo game. It's not natural to me. Um, I have huge amount of respect for the form. Just I'm gonna, at this point, I'm 53 years old. I'm gonna make the games that I'm good at making, and the games that I'm good at making and the games that are natural to me are games about like over the table play.
Eric Lang hates me, everyone. Okay. Kidding, kidding.
Confirmed.
um, okay, so the other thing that I've noticed though, so you mentioned that you don't like to make solo games or play them, but you also don't seem in recent years to make games solo, if that makes sense. It seems like a lot of your projects are co-designs and that you enjoy, the act of creating with other people. So
Yep, it's actually half and half. Half of my games I do design by myself, half of them and that's on purpose because I do love that. I love it.
that's awesome. So when you are choosing co-design relationships,
Mhm.
are you choosing them yourself? Is it something that comes into being because it's an IP and you are, like, I mean, I guess to what extent do you choose your own partners and what criteria do you use to do it?
Sure. Every relationship is completely unique. Um, now, here I'll give you some context that might put into a framework. I was a musician before a game designer, and I still sort of identify as a musician even more than a game designer, even though I've been doing game design way longer than music professionally. Um, for me, it is the same dynamic as being a solo artist versus a band. Even as a solo artist, you have a lot of people around you and a lot of people helping you out. But as a band, bands are democratic. Love that word. But like I look for chemistry. Chemistry is everything to me, and so and basically, I'm always seeking. I'm always looking. I'm always kind of like and I almost hate to say this at a podcast because people might take this the wrong way, but like when I'm playing games with people, even with strangers or meeting new people, there's a little part of me that's like kind of interviewing them for like for the potential to be a co-designer. But generally, I and chemistry is so alchemical. Like I can't put it into a formula. It's got to be people I vibe with. Number one. Number two, people who I believe will complement my skill set um, in the context that we're going to work in. So like it's not like I'll go. I want like we're talking Mass Effect. It's not like I want to work with Calvin Blanc because I love Calvin. I actually knew him from the internet before I knew him as a friend. Um, and like I like this guy sounds like I totally vibe with this guy. I want to do something, but it wasn't like I want to work with Calvin. It was just sort of in the back of my mind. And then Mass Effect came up and I saw how much he was talking about Mass Effect. I'm like, he's the guy. And it was actually the publisher offered me Mass Effect. Like they were like, we want you to design Mass Effect. And I was going to turn it down because I was really busy and and I love Mass Effect. I'm not a big Mass Effect fan. God, this is clip that for posterity. Um, I'm not like what I respect the IP a lot. I played Mass Effect 1 and a little bit of 2 and a little bit of 3. It's not my it's but I have a huge amount of respect for the IP. And it was really one of those like, oh my God, uh, if you're doing a Mass Effect game, I don't want anybody else doing this. Like it's gotta be the game. I don't want somebody to like I don't want somebody to make Gloomhaven with Mass Effect art. Like I want to make something bespoke for Mass Effect fans who are coming into board gaming. And so yeah, Calvin was the only choice in that particular case. It was either he was going to work with me or I wasn't going to do the project.
Oh yeah, you couldn't have chosen better in terms of just pure love for Mass
Oh,
Effect
absolutely.
than Calvin.
And
And just as a person, Calvin rocks. So
that right. And we instantly had chemistry. Like we had so much chemistry as people. I didn't even consider the skill set. We figured that out. And that's different. It's been in some other cases. Ken Gruel, who I designed Life in Reterra with, and there's another game coming out soon, and a bunch of games with Exploding Kittens. We just jammed. Uh, I met him years ago. He was pitching games to me when I was the inventor relations director at CMON. I was like, he and his design partner Quentin, I was like, I really vibe with them. Like they were kind of like personality wise, they're like, I was kind of like, oh, these are whippersnappers, but they're smart. They're smart. And they're idea machines. I figure I might want to work with them just to see if that would work. Um, anyway, just long story short, Ken and I just had this really interesting overlap in the sense that usually I'm actually a sort of a technical guy. Like when it comes to game design, and I'm really polish addicted and end game. Like I love finishing games. So like I'd like to be involved in every step of the process and have a really big vision for like what the product looks like at the end of it, like every piece of it. I don't have to be the final voice, but I want to be in the room. But Ken is just a freaking fire hose of ideas. Like he will pitch, 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 pitch. And so I was like, oh, I don't have to be that guy. I can come up with some stuff, absolutely, but I'll be the curator. I'll be the designer. And so like he would throw me like 1,000 things. I would like, I'll throw in a bunch myself, and then I'll curate it and be sort of the gatekeeper. And like that, like Ken's good at that, but that's my calling. I'm good at ideas, but that's his calling. So we really got to sort of just let go, right, of the parts that aren't fully natural to us, and it worked really, really well. I have a story like that for every single co-designer I've worked with, and they're all completely bespoke, that's why I love it.
that's awesome. And then you mentioned that you kind of do half and half co-designs, half just you. Is that by design? Do you feel that it's very important for your creative life to do things just on your own as well?
So, I would love to say it's fully intentional. It just kind of works out that way. I have more ideas than time. Every game designer should have but I have way more ideas than time. And so there's some things that I'm so passionate about, like so uniquely passionate about. Like for example, I Heart Manatees, which is a game I did for Buffalo last year. It's a manatee game. I grew up swimming with manatees. I feel very strongly about manatee conservation. I was uh, like I don't want I want to be a dictator on this game. Like this game has to happen my way. I don't want to share this vision with anybody because nobody else likes manatees the same way that I do. So sometimes it's like it's got to be like that. But in other cases, like there are some games where I'm like, I'll come up like just in like a band situation, like I'll come up with a great riff, or I'll come up with a great like or a hook or a lyric or something, and I'll be like, I'll come up with something like, I really like this. I really like this other person. I want to jam and see what happens.
That's interesting. I love that you have said that you're a tyrant about a game after immediately a conversation in which we talk about how games are very democratic.
They are. So here's the thing. They are. And so I thought about well, I mean, I identified myself as I am a conservationist at heart. That's where my family comes from. But that game is for conservationists. It's not for anybody else. So it's for people who are going to love, if you have to love manatees, you have to be interested in manatee conservation. That game is for you. Um, so, um, but on the other hand, I also love broad and approachable, right? So it can't be like super nerdy or too complicated or stuff that 1% of even the manatee loving conservation of conservationists are going to care about. So that's in my DNA now. I can't make a game that is not approachable, if that makes sense. I
Yeah,
always
absolutely.
there's always part of me that's thinking about the fan.
So this kind of leads me to another question. When I first read your post about games being democratic, I think that people
Uh-huh.
don't necessarily think about it the way that you've defined it here. I think when people think about things being democratic, they think about not so much accessibility of the game, but accessibility of the field. So, do
Sure.
you think that the democratic nature of board games, like as in play, in action among
Hmm.
people, is
Hmm.
matched by the ability to get into game design as a field?
You know what? I actually don't know if I understand your question.
I guess what I mean is that when we also talk about democratic, things
Mhm.
like I would say that book publishing has become more democratic because you can use Kindle Unlimited and just self-publish anything that you want.
Oh, the art form has become democratized. Yes, I agree. Right, the means
Yes,
of the means of production have become democratized. Yes, that's actually not what I meant.
yes.
I mean the art form itself, like the craft itself is like I cannot make a game that no matter how much I'm selfish about it, no matter how much I want to express myself, I cannot I cannot get to the finish line without stopping myself, even in Manatee, it's the most tyrannical game, without putting myself with the fans and playing the game with fans. So even if it was my most beloved game and if I loved every part of it, if I went out playtesting a bunch and it kept falling flat, I wouldn't publish it.
That's really interesting. This also leads me to ask, so, when people just think about you and they look your BGG page and they just see like the list of the most notable games, they're all
Mhm.
these really chunky,
Big
strategic,
box.
like kind of big box games. But that's not, if you actually look at the long list of what you do, I would not say that those are fully definitive of you as a game designer. You seem to like to make a huge range, like Zombie Burrito is on the list. Or
Yeah.
like, was it like Let's Hit Each Other with Fake Swords or something like that? Like you do a lot of
Uh-huh.
Exploding Kittens work. So do you think about the designs that you choose in terms of career like curation at all? Like, is there like, oh, this is
Mm-mm.
like something that seems like me, or do you just go wild?
Uh, Probably if those are the two choices, the latter. I don't think about it. I don't think about career creation at all. Um, I actually think I'm gonna get in trouble for this too. I actually think that is a little dishonest. Like for Now, I'm also incredibly privileged. Like I've got like my first gig was well, my first paid gig that wasn't self-published. That was yes, I worked 10 years to get there, but my first paid gig was as the lead designer of a collectible card game, right? So I got a big leaping head start. Um, and I'm sorry, I actually lost my train of thought because as I was saying that, I was going down memory lane at FFG. Sorry, what was your question again?
Oh, we were talking about career curation and like
Oh,
what
right, right.
Yeah,
Yeah, so I have the luxury of being honest. Like I will only make games that I feel that I'm in love with, and I don't care why I'm in love with them. I just have to be in love with them. And the only thing that'll stop me from working from a game on a game is that I fall out of love with it. So for example, Zombie Burrito, like yeah, I know that like if somebody's following me from the hobby side, they'll probably be like I don't know if they consider it alienating, but they're not going to pick it up. That's fine. It's not for them.
that's fair. So I love this tension that we're talking about though between like your love of what you're doing and then also your need to have it at least be accessible to an audience. To what degree do you care about whether other people love your games when you put them out? Like it's like the art and the democratization aspects. Like how does that play out in terms of how you feel about critical reception or audience reception? How does that differ?
Oh, interesting. Critical reception, I don't give a flying fuck. Um, Audience reception, I'm gonna say I care a little bit. I really care a lot, a lot, a lot, a lot. Um, um, the I was talking to a podcaster, and it occurred to me in the middle of that interview because they got very hung up on my musical background because I do speak in musical terms about game design a lot. Um, it occurred to me halfway throughout my career, I actually thought in musical terms that I was like Robert Fripp, who's the architect of like King Crimson, like the prog mastermind who was like who had pattern recognition and all that crazy autistic stuff that was really could navigate complicated things and distill them very well. I thought I was that guy, but no, I actually wasn't. At my highest aspiration, I'm not Robert Fripp. I'm actually at my highest aspiration, I'm John Lennon from the Beatles. I want to make stuff that is deep and resonant and iconic, but it's got to be broad. Anybody's got to get into it, and it'll just reward you if you decide to explore deeper. So I don't like pablum, right? I don't want to make stuff. I don't want to make like crap just because it's accessible. I want to make deep, interesting stuff. But at my core, I believe that most people do crave depth out of their experience. It's just my job to make sure that I can help them get there with as little friction as possible.
Ooh, with as little friction as possible. Well, you have to have the I guess that's always hard, right? Because games are
Oh,
inherently about friction.
that's the job, right? Yep,
Oh.
that's the job.
I feel like all I ever offer my players is friction because if you're doing a solo or co-op experience, the game has to fill in for all of the roadblocks that a player would put in front of
Absolutely,
you.
that's right.
And so I just it's all horrible choices all the way down.
Absolutely. I I do not envy you, and I would like if you asked me at this podcast, like, hey, you want to make a solo game with me? I'd say no. I'd be terrible at it.
Yeah, actually, what I've noticed about David's and my games, they come out feeling even though so we just signed a second game, that's purely solo. Night Witches is 1 or 2 players. But
Okay.
even our pure solo game, Queen of Spies, feels like you could play it cooperatively because that's how we made it.
Mhm. Well, there's a cynical sect of board gamers who say that a lot of co-op games are basically just solo games with multiple players. I don't subscribe to that. I can see how they get there, but I don't subscribe to that.
That's fair. Alright, but back to you. So, one thing I was wondering about is, like, kind of looking over your repertoire, things that you've made. Um, you know, I feel like, you also are very thematically, like, everywhere in terms of what you make. So, I guess my question is, so some of it's IP. When
Mhm.
you are choosing themes, how do you choose what game themes that you want to work on? And then how much does theme matter to you in terms of the designs that you're doing? Like you posted a few days ago about like, oh, in a high strategic game theme really doesn't matter. So why are we doing all these boring colonial themes?
Right. But now I
So
don't make those kind of games. So, um, like, well, I mean, sorry, I do as intellectual exercises, but I don't publish them. Um, now theme in the like, do we mean theme in the artistic sense, or like the coat of paint?
ooh. So I think that dividing them into those two categories says a lot, right? Because
Yeah.
are you designing the game to tell a story? or did you slap something on the game because you like the engine?
Right. So like so here's an example. So to me, theme is everything, but I definitely don't. What I don't mean code of paint, right? So uh, um, like I mean, obviously the code of paint matters absolutely, but that code of paint's got to be it's got to represent the theme. So like here I'll use it as an example as one of actually my most commercially disastrous games of the last few years, which is Disney Sidekicks for Spin Master, a game I'm actually very proud of, but we fucked up a chunk of that. The Coda paint on that game is Disney sidekicks, right? Like you play the sidekick characters in the Disney movies. Great hook. I didn't come up with that. Spin Master came up with that. I talked to publishers a lot, and they were like, "We have some various ideas," and I think that was insights driven. They were like, "Here's a Disney thing that hasn't been done." I latched onto that immediately, so I'm a very intuitive person in that particular way. Like I'll see a spark instantly or I'll pass. I saw a spark instantly. I didn't know what it was until I slept on it. I was like, oh my God, yes. Like the common thread here, the reason I would love that after sleeping on it and coming back to it was like, I will actually want to make a game about lifting each other up. That's the theme. Like lifting each other up in the internet sense, like the joy space internet sense. Like I want to make that game. I want to make a game where you feel so awesome for making somebody else's turn awesome that it almost doesn't matter what you do, right? Because that's the role of the sidekick. That's what they do, right? And so like I came from the point of view of like, what if that was actually a joyful and fulfilling role rather than an NPC role? And so like that's the theme. And so everything I did about the game came from that theme, which is why the game was blisteringly hard. It's hard for the sidekick. It's easy for the hero. It's hard for the sidekick. The sidekick doesn't have the hero's like the greater worldview. They don't like they're the support role. So like you're seeing parts of the game at any given time, and it's always overwhelming. And oh, the heroes were taken out of the picture. You have to rescue them. Oh my God, I'm not used to the spotlight. Like that was the theme. So now, having said all that, why it was a disaster was because oops, Spin Master wanted a kids game, but that is not a kids game.
Oh no.
A blisteringly hard game, not a kids game. I wish I had interrogated that part more carefully because I made a game that I'm very proud of. I think it, in and of itself, I think it's pretty great. We made some production snafus, which I'm not proud of, but like even though we had excellent production people, but yeah, it was just misplaced. So that game keeps me up at night because like that game, like moms bought it for their kids because it had this cutesy title, this cutesy box, and they played it and they got their asses kicked and they couldn't understand it. Um, it kills me because I think the game's great, but um, the theme, like I wouldn't have designed a kids game for Sidekicks because I don't think that I don't think that's not what I saw. That's not what resonated with me. So does that make sense?
Yeah, it absolutely does. And also, I find it very interesting. So, I ask you about theme, and you've really immediately zero in on the experience you want players to have and like
Absolutely.
what
Yeah.
you want them to do. And I also think that sometimes when we talk about theme, like I think it's because I'm a historical gamer, right? I'm thinking like, how does this
hmm
evoke history? Like, what am I putting on the board that
hmm
reflects reality in some way? And so I also wanted
hmm
to ask, and this is also just I absolutely just recently read Alan Moore's Providence, so it's on my mind, like
Okay.
Lovecraftian things. But how
Sure.
much into the lore of your games that have like at least a Lovecraftian coat of paint do you get? Like I've always
hmm
wondered about this because Lovecraft is
hmm
notably like gross,
Yep.
racist, unpleasant, and
Yep.
yet in game world, I would actually argue that Lovecraft as expressed through games like yours or Nikki Valence's games are some of the most diverse in terms of their artistic representation. And also, I mean, there's like a whole other version of the world of Cthulhu that
Yeah.
exists now in gaming. So how do
Yeah.
you feel about your role in that? And how do you feel that what you're doing relates to the original source material?
Sure. Okay. So Lovecraft's unique. So boy oh boy. Well, all right. So um, God, I hope this doesn't get you a whole bunch of trolls, because whenever I talk about this online, I get like
Oh no, they
the
can fuck off.
worst, the worst parts of the internet. Literally, so when we, we're from the internet, right? So literally, to me, Lovecraft was cultural appropriation. I took that motherfucker's work and I brought it into, like, he did. Yeah, he was a piece of shit, right? um but he, like, there's a reason his work is iconic, right? He was influenced by Sumerian Babylonian lore, um uh, folklore, sorry. And like he writes about the existential, I mean the truly existential, right? I thought that was cool. Now, a lot of games, like the role playing game in particular, did a really great job of putting you in that space. But there was this other side to it that I was like, um, now granted, like when I was working on this stuff, I also worked on the FFG Cthulhu stuff too, in their Arkhamverse, when that was developing. We just had this, we were like, I want to do, I did two takes on it, right? The Arkhamverse and the Cthulhu Death May Die verse. They're two different treatments. The Arkhamverse is pulp, right? It's Doc Savage, pulp. Like, we wanted to do the bubblegum version of the gumshoe version, right? And that was all vibes. And so the idea of that was to literally flip it on its head and go like, this is like, in the way that, the dark fantasy often ends up being the most hopeful fantasy, because when heroes are presented against the greatest darkness, they or sorry, under the greatest shadow, it is the greatest light that casts the greatest shadow. That's what we're, right? That metaphor. I figured that. And sorry, I'm not the sole architect of Arkham. I don't want to take credit for that, but I was one of the people who spoke up about it when it first started. I was really into, like, let's make this like fantasy 20s. Now, as a history guy and a political science major, like, the 20s look nothing like the way Lovecraft described it. They look like Arkhamverse. So, like, in my opinion, they're more historically accurate than what Lovecraft wrote about. It represents just the landscape of the way New York actually looked. Um, and we got to be a little subversive, right? In the sense that, oh yeah, all the heroes are the people that we kind of like that kind of got whitewashed out of history a little bit. But then you get to play them, like, oh, that's cool. This, of course, is cool because this is what actually happened. So I don't even have to pretend to make an ethical argument out of it. Like, yes, there absolutely is some, but it's actually the way the world works.
Ooh, that's really interesting.
That was super preachy. Sorry, but that's a passion topic of mine.
No, I like passion topics, but okay, I've just always been curious about this, so I'm just gonna ask.
Mhm.
I want to ask about a
Yeah,
scandal. So,
yeah.
Rising Sun. When we talk about like research of themes
Oh
and
yeah.
doing things accurately, what
Ah,
would you do differently in your approach to Rising Sun? Because we had the
uh-huh.
Wikipedia God
The
represented in the
Kotahi
game
guy.
scandal. Yes.
Yeah, yeah. That's a good question. I mean, I now have several years of perspective on it. I'm going to be a little careful and a little cagey here, because only because part of the responsibility is mine. The circumstance casts a not great light on others, so I want to be a little careful, right? So I'm going to focus only about the parts where I had responsibility. So, generally speaking, when I do research for an IP, and especially in those IPs, those IPs were like, literally, they were my interpretation of this German book of folk tales and legends that my grandmother read to me when I was little. Um, that had this like really weird, like, and turns out ownable version of these folk tales. I started with Vikings, because like they were closer to like Marvel Universe Vikings, right? It was, and I wanted to approach it from a very surface level, from vibes, right? So, um, in so doing that, it was very clear to me these games were not for scholars. They were for people who wanted to enjoy, they were for a broader audience, the broader audience who wants to go into a vibe. So I was like, horned helmets for Vikings. That's the vibe, right? And so with Rising Sun, well, all of these, what I would do, the first round of the first prototype I would do, I would make sure not to do any research whatsoever. It had to only come from the dome. I was immersed very much in these themes. I read about them so much, but it had to come from here. That way I would be, that gave me clarity of purpose, and it made sure that I didn't get too far into the rabbit hole when presenting the surface level of the game. It was iconic. It was stuff that almost anybody should know. When I started getting into deep cuts, I'd go back and do research just to make sure that I was like in the ballpark. Or if I wasn't, if I was inaccurate, I was inaccurate on purpose. Fast forward to Rising Sun. So I did all that for Rising Sun. I also worked with Adrian Smith, who's an artist who he is a scholar. So we actually we came not came to blows, but there was a little friction because I was like not scholarly, and he's like, yeah, but I know all these. Like I'm going to put a twist on these things, but I did like he knew it so well. He knew what the twist was. I didn't. So I'm like, all right, I'm going
Right.
to trust you on this. So we have to put up. So then he made a bunch of guys that were just cool. I'm like, all right, well, I got to map these to something, but we're out of time. We're going to do the Kickstarter. I'll do these later. I'll do these next year. Turns out the Kickstarter exploded, and we had no time. So normally the way I do it, when I do research, I triangulate from 3 sources. Wikipedia is one of those sources. I know people get mad, but I start there. But I always triangulate that with 2 other scholarly sources. I didn't have the time. It literally had a 24-hour cycle to do a whole bunch of naming. So I triangulated as many as I could. That one I missed. And that one was the one that snuck in. It was just super bad luck. And I got caught. So like I deserved everything I got for it. But the funny thing is, I was embarrassed, but it turns out like since the game isn't a scholarly work at all, we kind of got like, and Simon just was like, they were like, it's funny. This is kind of funny. Lean into it. And so I did. Here's the thing. What would I have done differently is all process, like has to do with the parts that I didn't necessarily have control over. However, what I would have done differently was go like, you know what, I'm going to anticipate this happening again in the future. So I'm going to do all that ahead of time and just go, no more content, no matter what.
It makes sense. Yeah, I mean, a lot of times it's a process thing. So this also leads me to ask, I because you've been in the game for so long at this point, and you really like have had a career with a lot of steps. Like you were, from my perspective, I was very surprised when you left Simon because I guess it's come on now. Because it seemed like you were at the helm of this big thing and it was just like one banger after another coming out. And then you moved on partially, I think, to work on your own things, as was said in the statement, but also to pursue advocacy.
Mhm.
So, what has that stage of your career looked like? And how do you feel about this part of the path in retrospect?
Sure. I needed to leave Simon. So you're right. We did banger after banger. But the thing is, um, those games and the machine under which we had to build those games it's just burnout. Like, especially for somebody like me, ironically, for somebody like me who's utterly uncompromising, um, that's going to sound like a humble brag. It's not. Like there are folks who are working at Simon that are not burned out because they're much more that they're not as bullheaded about their vision, and so they're fine. But when I work on a game, like I know what it's got to look like on the shelf, which makes me not easy to work with for folks who just want to compromise a lot, right? So I'm like, no, it's got to be that. That's the thing, right? And so the so much of it is a battle, like so often, and I don't win every fight. I'm not supposed to win every fight. Um, However, we did 12 big box games in the course of 3 years. And after a while, I was like, no more. Plus, I was also involved in every single other game. Plus, I was also doing inventor relations. I was bringing games in, and I was trying to broaden CMON. Like I brought in games like Gizmos and foodies and model that was for wider audiences with Simon's production values. So I spent too long trying to steer Simon in a direction that they were not necessarily built to get in. And so they COVID hit. They they were like, all right, like everybody else, we're going to scale down to our core competencies. That was the correct decision. But I'm like, I'm out. Like I need to work on other things. I need to do. I'm also like I have a bunch of nephews and nieces I'm very very close to. Nobody in my family wants to play any of my big box stuff. Like I want to make games that they can play, or that I'm happy to teach them how to play. That was a very long way to answer half your question. So the advocacy part. So I'm also mentoring is the biggest part of what the advocacy. I love mentoring folks. I absolutely love it. Like I've been doing it, I think, since, well, I started too early when I didn't know enough, but I've been doing it forever. It's natural to me. I love, um, it's not even teaching people things. It's like, I love being inspiring to, or offering motivation for folks in my community, especially those who don't necessarily have the resources or the inroads that somebody like me would have gotten. I love that. Absolutely, it's so rewarding. It's quite possibly the most rewarding part of my career. I made a lot of money at C1. I'm like, I don't have to make this much money. I can slow down a little bit. Haha. But that was bullshit. But I can slow down a lot, but I can spend more time doing this mentorship. Also, like there are a lot of political causes that I care a lot about, and I have enough cachet in the industry that I can do I can do fundraising and I can do some organization all quietly. So I'm sorry to be cagey. I'm not going to share any details here because the folks I advocate for, I don't want them getting attention from the internet. Um,
That's fair.
like the but like they're like it's almost stupidly easy for me to raise money for stuff that I really care about. So I got to spend a little more effort, a little more time on doing that part. That ended up playing out, but that plus the same amount of work on the other stuff. Whoops. I'm still doing that. What I'm doing. I'm slowed down on mentoring. Actually, I can so proud to say that a lot of the folks that I've mentored in my first cycle are now mentoring other designers because
That's awesome.
and they're successful. Like some of them are like there are folks for Tessa Elise, right? Who's a fucking rock star, and like kicking ass at Funko and now she's working at Pokemon, making fat stacks over there, and and I think she just got the 2 awards from the toy industry, and is like mentoring a whole bunch of other stuff. It's amazing. I love it. Um, that's what I want to do in retirement. That's what I want to do with all my retirement. Um, I still got to make money right now, but I'm that is a trajectory that a little bit less work, a little bit more advocacy. That's sort of where I'm aiming. So that's the long way of answering you. I want to start that road and force myself to do it formally, if that makes sense.
Yeah, no, it's awesome. So just the quick and dirty version of mentoring. So for people who are listening, what is the most given piece of advice to your mentees?
Don't listen to advice. I know it sounds quippy. Um, it sounds quippy, like, and of course, and the reason I love that is because it's because it's shocking, and it invites, and it does, it's in and of itself invite further conversation, and it also helps me learn a lot about the 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 person I'm mentoring, how the rest of that conversation goes. Because quite often, like for example, and of course I'm revealing too much here, but like I have like started that conversation with some folks and said they're like, well, what's your advice? I was like, don't listen to advice. And if it's like, oh yeah, oh you're right, I shouldn't. I'm like, all right, you're not ready yet. We'll talk later, right?
Yeah.
But more like that helps me learn a little bit more about them. I do believe that. like just like with playtesting, I treat advice and mentorship just like playtesting. You should take everything. You should take in all the feedback you can, but you're the filter. And at the end of the day, most things that I advise worked for me. That and every almost, especially in our field, so small, almost every designer blazes a path for themselves, and the doors naturally close behind them because that path's been taken. You're not going to ever follow somebody else's footsteps exactly. You can hold their hand a little bit, but you got to find your own way. And so once we get past that initial shock, and like, because I want to make sure that they're like, I'm not here to tell you how to run your career. I'm not here to give you step-by-step practical. I'm here to help you think about your career.
Ooh, that's interesting. Okay, and then as somebody who, we're not doing details, but you have a bit of
Mhm,
weight to throw around. For people who attain some sort of say in our industry,
mhm.
what do you think is the most, I guess, responsible way to use what power you have?
Phew. Um, I mean, I can tell you some of what I do. I don't know if it's I honestly don't know if it's how responsible it is. I'm gonna let others be the judge of that. Um, um, throw your weight around. Honestly, throw your weight. If you've got, if you have, I don't even want to say power because I don't even know what that means in this industry. But if you have credibility, um, just like if you have capital, you spend it, spend it, spend it, spend it. Like there's absolutely no value to credibility that you don't spend. And in my case, the more credible you are, the more you should be spending that on power structures in the industry, right? So, for example, like a new designer who's like doesn't have a lot of credibility, that doesn't have a lot of power. So, go ahead, argue with idiots on the internet who want to say like DI means didn't earn it. Like have that bullshit argument on the internet. It's fine. For somebody that has power, that's a waste of your time and a time suck. However, somebody who makes decisions in this industry, somebody who holds some powerful purse strings, that person you have that conversation with, you spend hours with, you spend all the time it needs. You teach yourself, take a course in how to read the art of persuasion, uh, teach yourself how to be persuasive. It is exhausting as like you think arguing with trolls in the internet is like try arguing with trolls with a power dynamic that works against you. um, and they're not even trolls, right? Like you have to disabuse yourself of that notion, right? You have to teach yourself how to get to be and accept. You got to be their therapist. You got to be their you have to be their friend. You have to be their trusted source of information. You have to compromise a lot of your own values when you speak to that kind of power. If but it's worth it. It's always worth it. Like I'm going to redact a lot of names here because I'm not going to betray any of that trust. But like um, I will say that I'm being careful here. Um, I have had several hour long conversations with heads of publishing and ended that conversation. Started the conversation with I learned everything I knew about DEI from Jordan Peterson, and I think it's just about making too many Black people work. And ended the conversation with, "Oh, yeah, all right. It's a marketing. It's a business plan, a marketing focused business plan. Got it. That makes a lot of sense. That takes
That was some work.
forever, but it works. Like those people control purse strings. They create jobs, right? Well, create jobs. No, not really, but they hold gates closed. So like the more time you spend on them, you got to open gates, and like you got to do the things that you have to be prepared to do the things that the online purity testers will never do, but got to do it. If you want to move power, you've got to compromise. Like you must be their friend, and you got to mean it. You can't be like you can't be I don't remember what the fancy term for it is, but like you've got to mean it. Like you've got to
Yeah.
actually want to help them, and you've got to have their trust, and don't like don't come in scoldy, don't come in judgy, come in like use your power responsibly.
Yeah.
I've written threads and threads and threads of stuff, which I actually had to leave Twitter because that's where I started. I started getting attacked too much by the purity testing left. Oh God, they're so gross. Um, like uh, um, because hey, if your aim is persuasion, this is the work you got to do. And by people who take that to mean, oh, so you got to be friends with Nazis. Like, fuck off. No. It means you got to spend time on you got to be a game designer, right? Like you're a game designer. Like, how do you win any game? Identify the proper strategy, identify the correct moves that you're going to take, do the work, identify your opposition, outmaneuver your opposition. Like it's just
Yeah.
that.
It makes sense. That's an interesting way to think about it for me as someone who loses so many games. No, I'm just teasing. But yeah, I mean, you put the work in.
You got to put the work in, and so much of the work is figuring out what the work is, and I help with. I can help with identifying what the work is. The thing is, it's work, and so many people are like, oh yeah, sure, I can put in hours. It's not hours. It's not hours. It's rewiring your own shit, and being willing, to if you're gonna wade in it, do it. Do it naturally. Do it, and don't judge them, and don't judge yourself. You're doing good.
That makes sense. All right, so we could probably go on, but it's been about an hour. So what I'm gonna do is you get to have softy questions now.
Yay! Ice
So
cream.
I always ask two. So I normally ask people what they've been playing recently that gives them joy, but you did mention recently that you also like to kind of cross train. You like to talk to other kinds of artists. So what is a
Mm.
bit of media of any kind that has brought you joy recently?
Oh God. Well, in the last 10 years, maybe more, I've studied stand-up comedy intensely. It's probably my favorite form. It's
Really?
always been. So yeah, I mean, I grew up on Pryor and Carlin, and I'm the old greats, but this new generation of comedians, holy God, we're in a golden age right now. It's amazing. Um, and there's a ton of overlap between stand-up comedy and game design, especially in terms of process. Um, when you're watching a stand-up on tour, they're playtesting for a year, and the special is the end result of a year of playtesting.
Ooh.
And it's amazing. So I got to the point where I'll follow a stand-up from shows to shows just to watch them, and of course jokes are incredibly mechanical. I don't know if you've ever anatomized a joke. It's absolutely possible now. Like, and the cool thing is, you can learn it and then become a clinical, boring comedian, or you can learn it enough to forget it, right? Just like music theory, you can learn enough to go, cool. I know how to break rules. Neat. And it's a wonderful art form, and I could make a playlist of amazing stand up today, even depending on your tastes, right? I love, I've always loved, and I hate to say this because it's a swear word now, but I love edgy comedy. I mean classically edgy comedy. So not punching down assholes, but I mean people who bring up topics that make you uncomfortable and make you laugh in that place. That's healing. Like I watched Taylor Tomlinson is one of my favorite comedians right now. She's amazing. She's going to continue being amazing. She mostly talks about mental health and like how trash 20-year-olds are because she's 20. But the like the she did like 10 minutes on her dead mom.
Ooh.
And and like so I mean my first mother ended her life, right? So it was the most uncomfortable place, and I laughed my ass off at because that's skill. Like she tap danced over all those laser beams, and at the end of it, she's like, "Just so you know, I just did 10 minutes on dead moms." I'm like, "Yeah, yeah, you did, right?" or stuff like, or Hannah Gadsby, who like everybody knows her for like the Nanette thing, and that was very important piece of work, and I love it. I never want to watch it again, but I love it. But she's actually an incredible technician. um, the one she's after that called Douglas, um, is she did the like she set up first 5 minutes. I'm going to tell you exactly how the show is going to go. Here are all the beats, and you watch the whole thing, and she still surprises you. She still laughs, walks you all through it, and the whole bit of it is because she did that. It was like it was an experiential autistic performance art, because that whole thing was about how she was autistic in her experience. And it was funny as hell, the whole thing. And she closed with the joke she told you at the beginning she was going to close with. Still blew the roof off.
Oh,
Like,
that's
I
awesome.
love that. I love that. Anyway, sorry. So that's bringing me a lot of joy. I love it. I wish I could do it. I'm not funny enough, but uh, um, I feel like I could write an hour, but I don't think I could perform an hour.
Yeah, I don't know that I'd have the nerve to just look out at a bunch of people and
I think you get
go
over
there.
that. But there's a temperament. You have to be able. So when you bomb, because the problem was just like with gaming, with playtesting, you're always going to bomb, right?
Yeah.
You have to. It's part of the process. And bombing sucks, right? But
Oh,
you
yeah.
have to bomb. If you don't bomb, you're not trying hard enough. So yeah, so I can handle it in a playtest environment, because I get to deflect onto the game, right? I could be, oh, this game sucks, fuck that, right? But when you're a stand up and you bomb, it's all you.
Yeah.
Um, yeah, I can't
No.
watch other people bomb.
I can't imagine being 15 minutes into an hour and just knowing it's gonna be bad and having to tick the rest of it. Oh.
Yeah, yeah, it's horrifying.
Whew. But okay, so these are some good recs though. And then for people who want to follow you online and engage with you, where can you be found?
God, I think I'm on Blue Sky, and that's it. I've dropped almost all other socials. I think I'm on Facebook a little bit, but honestly, like if you want game design, all I do on Facebook is like I just talk about, yeah, I talk politics only on Facebook because the world is a place right now.
Mhm. That's one way to
On
put
Blue
it.
Sky, I talk about games
Excellent.
and
All right.
politics.
So Eric, thank you so much for coming on. I really appreciate you taking the time to talk to me. This
Oh
is
yeah, thanks.
really
That's
enjoyable. I'm
great.
really glad we did it.
I thank you for letting me be let me fire hose.
That's what I like. All right, everybody. You can find me anywhere online as Beyond Solitaire. And I will see y'all soon. But until then, please like, subscribe, comment, ask questions, and most of all, happy gaming.
Happy gaming.